On this week's show, the Georgia Southern Eagles finishing a 3-game series at home against nationally ranked Clemson. We'll let you know how they did. And unfortunately, the Eagles softball team one and done in the Sun Belt tournament. All that and more as we welcome you inside the Eagles Nest. And welcome inside the Eagles Nest. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey, being joined by Mike Anthony, sports editor and Georgia Southern beat writer for the Statesboro Herald. And Mike, one series left and against Georgia State. Kind of strange days. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So as we go to tape, they haven't played them. As the show airs, there will be one, maybe two games in the books. Georgia Southern right now could fall anywhere from 4 to 7. Georgia State comes in for this series with their lives on the line, I guess, and their postseason lives on the line. Before we get to that, 3-game series with Clemson this past weekend. Georgia Southern takes 1 of 3. The bookends, not real pretty. The second game, a good scrap back battle to knock off one of the top 25 teams in the nation.
And top 25 teams have been a normal sight for the Eagles this year. They've played 3 different squads that have been ranked nationally. Clemson, probably the best hitting team that they've seen, and they got to see a lot of the Clemson bats throughout the weekend. Evan Challenger, a steady ace all year long, but this is the second season in a row that Clemson order just hasn't suited him. Gives up a couple of 3-run homers on the weekend, or in the weekend. On Saturday, the Eagles with a thriller, a walk-off after technically making the last out. A little weird baseball play there. And then, as you said, just more Clemson offense on Sunday. Not a lot the pitching staff could do.
All right, well, let's get into the Georgia State series and where Georgia Southern may end up as they prepare to hit the road after this for the Sun Belt tournament. Looks like 4 is probably as good as they can get. 7 is probably as bad as they can get. And of course, with Georgia State coming in, to be able to play spoiler on top of that for them, I'm sure gives them a little motivation.
Yeah, this definitely is an important series. You want to get as good a matchup as you possibly can going into the conference tournament. As we said last week, it doesn't work the same as, say, basketball, where a bye week or a bye game could give you a big advantage. With this, everybody's got the exact same setup. It's an 8-team tournament, double elimination, but you want to get as high a seed as possible to technically get the more favorable matchup. The Eagles are hoping that the matchup that Georgia State gets is none at all. As you mentioned, they're playing for their lives, currently 2 games back of the 8th and final seed. I would think that 2 wins mathematically eliminates Georgia State. Even 1 could send the Panthers home.
All right, well, let's get back and see some highlights from Georgia Southern's 3-game series this past weekend against Clemson. Georgia Southern head coach, 3, 2, 1. Georgia Southern hosting nationally ranked Clemson. Head coach Rodney Hennon, fresh off win number 600, down 3-0. Jordan ran with a nice play in right field to help the Eagles dodge a bullet. We move to the second, 1 on, and C.J. Brazel with the perfect bunt down the line. The runners would advance to second and third on a sacrifice, and then the Eagles cut the lead to 2 as Kent Rollins grounds to third. Wren scores. It's 3-1 Clemson. But that's as close as things got in the fourth. Chris Williams with a 3-run homer down the line and left. That would make it 6-1. Chris Oakey later coming through with the bloop into center field. Logan Baldwin unable to come up with this one. Seth Beard chugs home. Then with the score 8-1, it's Reed Rollman with the double into right. Clemson takes a 9-1 lead and would go on to win this one 12-1. So we move ahead to game 2 on Saturday. The beer flowing early. Seth Beer with a 2-run homer. Clemson up 2-0, but the Eagles respond with their big gun. Ryan Cleveland, the 2-run homer, ties it at 2-all. Clemson goes on to score 3 more in the third. Rollman, the 2-run double, but the Eagles come back to take Game 2 by a final score of 7-6. So to the rubber match we go Sunday. Connor Simmons with the inning-ending strikeout in the first, but the Tiger bats would come alive in the second. Chris Williams up, and away to left. The 2-run shot, and it's 2-0 Clemson. The Eagles able to get out of the inning. The run down here ends in an out, but another Tiger run scores, and it's 3-0. The Eagles able to get one back in their half of the inning. Matt Anderson will single into left field. Cal Baker hustles on home to score to cut the lead to 3-1, but it wouldn't end up being nearly enough as the Tigers go on for the series victory, winning Game 3 by a final count of 17-4. Well, Mike, the weird schedule next week, we'll be bringing you some of the highlights from the Georgia State series as well as a preview of the Sun Belt Championships as we get a chance to talk with head coach Rodney Hennon before he hits the road. Sun Belt Championships not going quite as well for the softball team, who unfortunately, despite having a good season, ended up one and done in the tournament.
Yeah, they just kind of ran out of gas there at the very end. Some of their toughest series of the entire conference season came in the final 2 or 3 weeks of play, but you've got to give them credit. Picked to finish 8th and barely even make the tournament. They were able to surprise a lot of teams. They finished 5th. They were higher than that for the entire season. Just a bad day to have a bad day, I guess you could say, in the conference tournament. They're not able to get a crack at one of those higher seeded teams, but you look up and down this roster, a lot of freshmen contributing right away, a lot of other underclassmen that were big parts both offensively and defensively. They'll be coming back stronger than ever next year, and I guarantee that this is going to be the norm of making the tournament and hopefully a new tradition for Sun Belt softball in winning a couple games in the tournament.
That's right, and the good thing about the Sun Belt is they are used to putting multiple teams into the postseason. Texas State made a nice run toward the end of the season where Georgia Southern kind of struggled a little bit, and Texas State used that momentum to gain an at-large berth into the postseason with Lafayette, no surprise, winning the Sun Belt tournament and being able to host in the opening round of the regionals. Well, for now, that'll wrap things up. For Mike Anthony, I'm Josh Aubrey. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again next week.